There is a white powder in your kitchen capable of triggering memories, influencing decisions, and making you want to repeat an experience even when you are no longer hungry. It is not hidden. It is not illegal. And for centuries, it was so valuable that only the wealthiest people could afford to taste it. Today, it can be found in drinks, bread, sauces, cereals, and even products we do not consider sweet. But sugar did not conquer the world through flavor alone. It succeeded because it found a door that evolution had left open: the brain's reward system. This is the story of how a tropical plant became an empire and how its flavor eventually began influencing billions of brains. Long before desserts existed, sweetness already meant something important: energy. For our ancestors, finding ripe fruit or honey could provide a valuable survival advantage. Sweet foods were scarce, seasonal, and difficult to obtain. A preference for sweetness was not a weakness. It was a useful tool. When sugar touches the tongue, specialized receptors detect its taste and send signals to the brain. Circuits involved in motivation, learning, and reward then become active. One of their chemical messengers is dopamine, which does not simply mean pleasure. Dopamine also helps the brain recognize that something was valuable and remember how to find it again. The problem is that this system developed in a world where sweetness was limited. No one evolved surrounded by soft drinks, packaged cakes, and food available 24 hours a day. Our ancient brain suddenly found itself inside a modern supermarket. The story begins with sugarcane, a tall grass that originated around New Guinea and Southeast Asia. Thousands of years ago, people were already chewing its stalks to extract their intensely sweet juice. Over time, the plant traveled to India. There, producers refined methods for boiling its juice and turning it into crystals that could be stored and transported. The name of sugar itself carries traces of this journey, passing through languages spoken in India, Persia, and the Arab world before reaching Europe. Muslim farmers and merchants spread sugar cultivation across the Middle East, North Africa, and parts of the Mediterranean. Producing it, however, required land, heat, enormous amounts of labor, and plenty of water. In medieval Europe, sugar was a rarity. It was sold as a spice, a medicine, and a symbol of status. A banquet decorated with sugar sculptures was more than extravagant. It was a display of power. Sugar was not yet an everyday food. It was a luxury that few people could afford. Everything changed when European powers carried sugarcane into the Atlantic world. In 1493, during his second voyage, Christopher Columbus transported sugarcane to Hispaniola. The Caribbean climate proved ideal for the crop. Large plantations soon appeared in Brazil and other tropical colonies as well. But production came at a brutal human cost. Planting, cutting, and milling sugarcane was exhausting and dangerous work. To sustain the business, colonial empires relied on the large-scale exploitation of enslaved Africans. Europe's growing demand for sweetness became tied to the transatlantic trafficking of human beings. Fortunes, ports, and cities grew around a product that concealed violence behind every crystal. Sugar was no longer merely a spice. It became a global commodity and one of the engines of the colonial economy. As production increased, prices fell. And as sugar became more affordable, more people learned to desire it. Between the 18th and 19th centuries, industrialization accelerated the transformation. New mills, improved refining systems, and the development of sugar made from beets greatly expanded the supply. What had once been a luxury began entering the homes of ordinary urban families. Sugar sweetened tea, coffee, and chocolate. It provided inexpensive energy to people working long hours and became an ingredient in preserves, baked goods, and mass-produced foods. During the 20th century, the food industry discovered something crucial. Sugar did more than add sweetness. It could also provide color, texture, volume, and preservation. It could soften acidic or bitter flavors and make a formula more appealing. Sugar appeared in obvious places such as candy and soft drinks, but it also found its way into bread, dressings, yogurt, cereal, and sauces. The conquest was no longer happening on plantations or along trade routes. It was happening inside nearly every kind of product. When we consume sucrose, The body breaks it down mainly into glucose and fructose. Glucose is an essential source of energy for our cells, including those in the brain. But that does not mean we need to consume added sugar. The body can also obtain glucose by digesting other carbohydrates. The experience begins before those nutrients ever enter the bloodstream. Flavor, aroma, and texture create a prediction. When the expected reward arrives, the brain strengthens the connection between the food, the place, and the moment. That is why simply seeing a package, hearing it can open, or walking past a bakery can sometimes trigger a craving. It is not always hunger. It can be learned behavior. The brain also does not evaluate foods in isolation as if it were working inside a laboratory. Many products combine sugar, fat, salt, aromas, and carefully designed textures. That mixture can be especially appealing and make it easier to continue eating. Does that mean sugar is a drug? The comparison is tempting, but the evidence in humans is more complicated. Sugar activates reward circuits and can help create powerful habits, but it does not behave exactly like a classic addictive substance in every person. Talking about context, learning, and constant availability is more accurate than reducing the entire issue to addiction. The greatest modern problem is not an occasional spoonful. It is accumulation. Sugary drinks make it possible to consume a substantial amount in just a few minutes, and they often provide less satiety than solid food. A single can may approach or even exceed the daily amount that some health recommendations consider ideal. The World Health Organization recommends keeping free sugars below 10% of total daily energy intake. It also identifies additional benefits from reducing them to less than 5%. For an adult following a standard reference diet, 5% is approximately 25 grams, or about 6 teaspoons. Free sugars include those added by manufacturers or consumers, as well as sugars found in honey, syrups, and fruit juices. They are not the same as sugars naturally contained within a whole piece of fruit, which also provides fiber, water, and a physical structure that changes the way we consume it. Sugar did not conquer the brain because human beings are weak. It conquered the brain because it delivers a signal that was useful for millions of years inside a world that eventually learned to produce that signal without limits. First, sugar was a plant. Then it became a medicine. Later, it became a luxury built on empires and slavery. Finally, it turned into an everyday ingredient capable of appearing almost anywhere. The question is not whether we should fear everything sweet. The question is how much of what we choose is truly a decision, and how much is a learned response. The next time you experience a craving, pay attention to the moment before the first bite. It may not be your stomach speaking. It may be a story thousands of years old, knocking at the door of your brain.